Welcome to Faith, Purpose, and Freedom. I am your host, Kayla Rose. Today, I have the honor and blessing of having an amazing CEO of Anchor Point. She also is the legacy architect that helps businesses architect trust into structure so that they can grow and thrive. Welcome, Debbie.
Hi, good to be with you.
It is such a blessing. So, hearing Debbie's story, I learned that this woman has walked through pure hell and come out the other side just ready to love, guide, and be a blessing to everyone. If you guys go to anchorpoint.us, you will see that there's so many resources that she has on her website. I actually have her website pulled up right now looking at it. And one thing that sticks out to me is that 911 prayer team. I just love it. Um, we also have a free book that she has, and I will be sharing that in the description too. Debbie, do you want to just share with us a little bit about you, your testimony? What led you to building an amazing business that is thriving and continues to grow?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I always like to tell people, our stories are always, our journeys have highs and lows. So buckle your seatbelt. Mine has plenty of both. And so it'll be a fun ride. But, as far as my faith journey, I really became a follower of Jesus. I fell in love with Jesus when I was around 12, through a vacation Bible school. And interestingly enough, both of my parents, became believers in their 20s, but I think a lot of it was driven by the fact that they wanted their kids to grow up in a good moral environment and everything, because my parents are what I would still consider baby Christians even at this age, today. But something happened. I got dropped off and picked up, dropped off and picked up, and I fell in love with Jesus, and that was great. And so I just stayed in the church. It was very active. And what something that happened along the way was that I had this deep desire to be a young grandma. And that meant, that I needed to fall in love, find a guy, fall in love, get married, have children, and then I could be this young grandma. And so when I went off to college, I did get my engineering degree, but I also found a guy, fell in love, and we ultimately got married when we finished school. And I was like, let's have kids because I got to get to this young grandma thing I got going on here. And the long story short is we did get pregnant finally after 5 years of infertility. And then we found out that we weren't pregnant with just twins, that we were actually pregnant with quadruplets when my body was trying to miscarry. So I was actually carrying four babies. And I don't know about you, but I had figured out what I was going to do with two, in my mind. And then four just kind of rocked my world. I was like, I have no idea. And I'm a girl that knows how to get things done. And I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do? Right.
What
And
am I going to
so,
do?
yeah. And so I freaked out a little bit. And then I was like, okay, I got to figure my way. And we just started the journey one day at a time, trying to get to the next day, get to the next day, get to the next day. And somewhere along the way, my mom said, why don't we just do one day at a time? And that kind of rocked my little world, like stay in the present. Don't be, down there thinking about if you have four girls and you got to pay for four weddings. Don't even
Right.
go there, because that was just too overwhelming. And around 20, our goal was 30 weeks. Around 26 weeks, we found me standing in water, realizing that one of the baby's sacs had ruptured. And so they put me in the hospital, and the goal was to be put in the bed and to see if I could still make it. But the next morning, one of the babies stuck a beautiful hand through my stitched cervix and said, "Hello, I am coming."
I'm
And
coming.
I was like, "No, this is too early. Stop this. Don't. No, 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 no. This is not good." And I looked at the doctor and I'm like, "Is there anything?" And she's like, "No, you're gonna have to deliver the baby." I'm like, because I knew that they probably weren't going to survive. And that was 32 years ago. Technology did not exist like it does today. Today, they
Right.
would survive. Okay. And so that little boy, he was born and they placed him in my arms and I held him and I rocked him and I loved him until he drifted into eternity. And then we waited because we had to see whether my body could carry the other three or would they reject them. And I got very, very sick. And a couple hours later, the doctor walked in the room and she said, "You're going to have to induce the other three." And I looked up at her for some little bit of hope, and there was none. And I was like, okay, I just have to figure my way through this. And a couple hours later, Nate arrived, Chris, Josh, they all came and they put them in my arms, each separately, and I rocked them and I held them until they passed away. And then at the end of the night, we sat with empty arms and broken hearts. You don't go to the hospital planning funerals when you're going to give birth,
Oh,
right? And so I remember very clearly that I was just sitting there and I was like, how do I figure my way through this? I don't know how to figure my way through this. This is a lot. And I was thinking of all the different things I could try to figure my way through this. And I could only land on the fact that I had to trust God. I couldn't see any other way to get through this. And I'd been a Christian for a long time, so this wasn't like some like eye-opening thing. It was just this is just the way it is. And I really really wanted the answer to why because I felt like if I got the answer to why, I could figure my way. And
right.
God, in that very night, was very gracious to me that it happened that night. Was He just kept gently nudging me. He's like, "You have to give me your why." And I was like, "I don't want to give you my why. You know
Right.
what? I've done all of this. I deserve the answer.
Yeah.
I deserve the answer. And if I have the answer, I can figure my way." And he's like, "Give me the why." And
Yeah.
finally, I just broke down and just gave it to him. And I said, "But I don't know what to do. If I had the why, I'd know what to do. I don't know what to do."
Oh,
And he gently whispered, "Ask me a different question." And I'm like, "What? I don't know what to ask you." And he was like, "Ask me, how do I survive?" And so that's the question I began asking. And it came down to taking a deep breath and getting into my prefrontal cortex and then doing the next best step.
right.
And I did that step in faith and obedience. He met me and he shined the light on the next step. And I did the next step. And I did this thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I didn't always go forward, but I always got up the next day and did it again, right? Next best
Right.
step, next best step. And this was the journey of healing that he took me on. And as I began to heal, he began to give me opportunities to work with people who had lost children or who were struggling with infertility and to come alongside them because I was walking that road. I was just a little bit ahead of them, right? And at some point I realized, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. I've I've walked through a lot of this healing stuff, right? And so I changed the question. I went back and I was like, "Okay, God, I don't want to just know how to survive. I want to know how to thrive." I said, because I'm too young to have my whole life be like stuck. I don't want to be
Mhm.
stuck. And he, I said, "You're the redeemer of stories. You will redeem this. Use my story to help others. Help me do something, help me figure my way." So then that became the journey of next best steps, right? And so as I did that, that led us on a fascinating journey of me leaving the engineering world, going to seminary, working on church plants and other nonprofits. But it led us to adopting, and we've adopted 9 children, 3 different adoptions, 9 children.
Oh,
And then I know, so it's like not a silent household. And then God planted this seed to start Anchor Point, which is a nonprofit that I started 16 years ago and is now alive and thriving and impacting families. And literally, thousands of families are impacted each and every year by the work that we do. And it's such a blessing. But this all started through the tragedy of losing these boys. And these boys' legacy lives on through me. And then I go, okay, what kind of legacy do I want to leave when I leave this earth? And I
Mhm.
realize I have to live it now. I have to be super focused on and intentional about the difference that I want to make. And that has been the journey, is figuring out the legacy that I want to leave. I think it's really cool. I'm getting older that I might be able to stand in heaven one day by Jesus and Anchor Point still be blessing people. And I'll be looking at him going, dude, you let me help with that. That was so cool. And that lady's getting served right now. And I'm
Mhm.
up here with you. That's like, legacy, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that as I make it into this older years. But I did. With the 9 adopted children, I now have 15 and one more on the way, a 16th grandbaby. So I have gotten to be the young grandma, and it's not the way I expected, but it's still really, really good. And so that's my journey.
And God always has a plan, and his plan is perfect. And I always say, when I lost my daughter, I was devastated. And
Mhm.
as years have gone by, I know that heaven needs babies too. And I get to have one of them.
Well, I think the
And
other thing is, you know what? Eternity will be here before we know it. And then we get to stay with
absolutely.
them. We get to stay with them for eternity. And that's a lot longer than right now. And so
Right.
I go, I'm going to get to see them again.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be a good thing. But right now, the sorrow and the challenge of being in the here and now just makes me long for there. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
who all can I bless and take with me while I go?
Right. And that is just beautiful. And, we often get so stuck in just surviving. And that's the one thing you said. You didn't want to survive anymore. You wanted to thrive. And you are thriving. But truly, what did that look like for you to step from survival to thriving?
I really don't remember like if there was a certain like switch. I just remember the biggest thing I remember is this, you know, take the next best step. Take the next best step. Take the next best step. And
Yeah.
really the blessing of laying down the why so early for me was that I could get to this survival phase and then this thriving phase faster, right? And it could be because mine was such a high risk pregnancy. Every day I was kind of working through issues all the time as we went through the pregnancy. And that's why I was able to do that so soon. But what I found is that that why word is the word that gets us stuck because why
Mm-hmm.
is very internally focused. And here's what I realized, this side of heaven, God could have been standing in front of me. I could have visibly seen God, and he could have given me the answer to the why, and I would have looked him straight in the face and said, "That's not good enough. Why? Why that?
Right.
Why that?" And why is an endless thing. It will always generate another why, right? Because
Yep.
the truth of the matter is, my children were not coming back. We couldn't take my pain away. There is only one
Mhm.
way, and it is through this pain. Right? And so the why question will keep us stuck. And I just was like, I am not doing that. And that's why
Yeah.
that question of how do I survive and how do I thrive is so powerful because it brings us back to the present and it's like, do one thing. Just do one,
Right.
whatever it is, and start taking positive steps because God can work with that. He can't work with it when we're fighting him and holding on to the why.
Right. And
He's
that's
gonna
so
wait till
true.
we release, right? And
Yeah.
that's what he's looking for.
Wow. That is so true. And I love that because, oftentimes when, you find yourself in any situation, it's always, or you're going to try something new, it's always, what's your why? What's your why? And that is so true because it does. It almost just is like, and stops you. So I love that. I absolutely do. So can you tell us just a little more about Anchor Point and exactly who you help, how you help?
Hmm. Sure, I'd be glad to. So, Anchor Point, really, the heartbeat of Anchor Point is to help families thrive. Is we want to see them grow. We want to lift the tide of parenting in our communities because we know our communities are only as strong as our weakest families. And so we do that in several different facets. We have a medical clinic called Obria that works with the underinsured and those that are struggling with choosing life for the child that they maybe just found out about. And so this gives them the care that they need and get them on to OBGYNs and things like that. Our Hope Family Center works with case management and walking alongside these baby moms and baby dads because you know what? Kids don't come with instruction manuals. They are the
Right.
instruction manuals. So these mom and dads are just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And so these case managers walk alongside of them and look at everything from resources to education to spiritual to physical. You know, what is it that you need to be able
Right.
to make your way in this world? And we work with those families up until the babies are 3 years old to get through some of the most critical stuff that they face. And then we have a maternity home for girls that are pregnant and homeless. That is a 18 to 24 month program, depending on where the girl is. And that allows us to go much more in depth than just our case management. But we are going to be in her life 24/7, and we're going to get to work through a lot of the hangups and look to getting to a place where we can be successful and also be able to provide for the baby. And then after that, we have our Hope Community Initiatives, which are parenting classes, our prenatal classes. We run therapeutic summer camps for families that are struggling with children. And this is called our Pathway to Hope Camp. And that helps our grandmas and our parents that have got children they just don't understand really work with the kids. So it's both for the parent and the child. And then also, we have a recovery groups such as abortion recovery, sexual abuse recovery, general trauma, to help people get freedom in life in areas that have held them bondage forever. So those are just a lot of the different things that we do for baby mom, baby dad, and then adoptive families all throughout our community.
Wow. I absolutely love that. And I mean, more communities need that resource. I just love that. There's so many things in there that is just so helpful, and I know I live in a community that would really benefit from a
Mhm.
resource like that. Just, I mean, young parents is something that happens more and more often. My son and daughter-in-law just had their first baby, and they are 19 and 20 and learning the ropes of parenthood, and it's beautiful. Um, but it's a challenge. So just having those resources is always just helpful. So can
Mhm.
you tell us a little bit about your business, the Legacy Architect, and just
Yeah.
helping businesses?
Yeah. Yeah, so what I do in that set is that, I had the real wonderful blessing of building this ministry from scratch, right? And have worked with a lot of startups and everything. And as I go into this next phase, I'm still CEO, but one day I will retire because we will have raised up wonderful people to continue on the ministry. And so I have began going, okay, what else can I do to help people in their businesses to build them and grow them and sustain them to the next level. And I do have another book that will come out probably in the next 2 months called The Architecture of Trust. And it really looks at the structure being the place that trust needs to reside in the organization. Because if we can't trust the structure, then it slows everything down. And this is built around the concept of leadership alignment, decision clarity, and execution reliability. Because one of those places usually is struggling within the organization. And we know it because the CEO makes comments like, why is this on my desk? Or I thought I solved this already. Or why does this keep coming back to me? These are questions that I say. I
Right.
have lived this over the years as we have built this out. And so I get to work with CEOs and really help them understand this is what's happening. It's not
Yeah.
bad people. It's your structure. We can't trust it. So we got to make some adjustments, and this will help your organization grow. So that's what I get to do with CEOs, and I love when the light bulbs go off and they go, oh, "That's what it was. It's not my
You know,
people."
I
I get it. Yeah.
I love that. So some of my clients are CEOs, and one thing I've learned is a lot of CEOs are overworked, exhausted, and just completely drained. And we oftentimes hear employees say they feel undervalued, underappreciated. Well, so do our CEOs
Hmm. Yeah.
oftentimes. And so just being able to step into something else I've been building with leadership development, it's something I've just really learned is leaders can lead with a servant's heart. Absolutely. But employees need to love their leader with a servant's heart.
Yeah. That's true.
And, so I just love hearing all the different realms of how to help businesses thrive and how to help them grow and get stronger. And one thing I really always come back to is when Jesus died, the veil tore from top to bottom because everything works from heaven down. It works from the top down. So if we have our leaders with the right heart and it's just working down, it's not only flowing into your workplace, it's flowing out into communities.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so your business really thrives and your employees are thriving. They're excited to go to work.
Hmm.
It's not so much a job. It's like going to family then. So,
Yeah.
I always think that that's really important. So I just love to know there's so many people that are truly helping businesses. And, in the end, I think communities will lead better
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. And I think
Let's
it's
jump into what's that?
Go ahead. I do think it's important from the standpoint of what you talked about with your CEOs. The reason they are overworked and stressed and maybe even more than the employees is because they have always been the one to save the organization. So when leadership alignment, decision clarity, execution reliability are struggling, then the CEO has always stepped in and filled the gaps. So it's like a bucket with holes, and I'm holding all the holes.
Right?
And then
Yeah.
another one pops up, and I'm like going, I can't figure out
How
how
am
to
I
get
going
to
to get
that one.
it?
And it's exhausting because the employees for the most part do care about the organization, do go the extra mile, but ultimately they don't bear the weight of the full organization, and that is why this architecture of trust is so important, because right now the organization rests on the leader, and it's fine as long as the leader can show up 100%. But we know
Yeah.
that's not sustainable. And so it's the structure that has to hold that weight. And that is where these CEOs need to focus, and then it will relieve the pressure that they are feeling and give
Yeah.
them the ability to trust the system. That's a challenge for all of us.
Right. Oh, and I mean, I think just, they need to be able to delegate and know that they can trust who they're delegating that position, that job to, and know that
Mhm.
it's going to get done and they just shouldn't have to worry about it because it is going to get done. It's going to get accomplished over here. So I love how you just pulled out, holding all the holes because it's so true. And who can
Yeah.
hold every hole? I feel like that some days as a mother. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Mhm.
So let's talk about Heart of Legacy. I know that book, whenever I talked to you, was just really important for this audience and to be able
Mhm.
to share. So I am excited to learn more and be able to share that with the audience.
Yeah. So the heart of legacy is really my story, so a much more expanded version of my story, and the building of Anchor Point, which is a wonderful thing. If anybody is wanting to kind of know the process, that is a wonderful thing. But it's also centered on this idea of what does it take for us to be a focused, faithful, and fearless person? Okay. And in the center of the book, there's this whole application piece of what does fearlessness look like? What does focus look like? What does, faithfulness look like? And how can I apply that to my life? And that is where I see it as being a wonderful, if someone is stuck, it's a wonderful thing for trying to figure out what the next best step is. If someone is like dreaming and going, how do I go to the next level? It's a wonderful for that. So it's just a great um, blessing to people to be able to go, oh, I can see now. I can do this next thing. And then the back third of the book is nothing but stories of life change from Anchor Point, of lives that have been impacted. And it's wonderful to be able to see that and to know that you and I can have that kind of difference in someone's life. It's just great to be able to read those stories and be encouraged by them and know that these lives are different.
Yeah. I think it's so important just to, we often hear that pain leads to purpose. And I think it's just so amazing to hear how your pain had such a big purpose behind it and the legacy you are leaving, not only for your boys, but for all 9 of your children and all 16 grandchildren. And who knows, you might have 20 more grandchildren.
That's funny. It's funny that you said that. The first grandchild that I had was inherited through marriage, okay? And she looked at me one day and she said, Lolly, if every one of your kids has 9 kids, that's like 81 grandkids. And I said, Chick, if we get 81, we might as well go for 100. So I'm like,
But you know what? I think for me, stepping into being a grandma, it's the biggest blessing. I mean, I love that I get to love him and send him home. But truly, it is a whole new type of love that you feel
yeah,
in that moment. It really is. I can't even explain it. Um, for me, stepping into being a grandma has been a little different because I also stepped into just this year really delving into my own business and the podcast and all of these amazing things. But then I still have 5 children under the age of 18 in my home. So juggling it, I won't lie, it has been a challenge, but God has been faithful all along, and I know that He will continue to be faithful, and I trust Him every step of the way.
yeah, that's good. I just go, okay, God, what are we doing today? Because I don't have a
Yeah.
clue.
It's funny that you say that because when I started my podcast, I actually did not start my podcast until March of this year. Um, and so when I started it, I said I was in the shower and the thought came podcast, and I'm sitting there like, okay, so we're starting a podcast. Like, what are we going to call it? And that's where Faith, Purpose, and Freedom came from. And it's what my coaching business is, just everything is faith, purpose, and freedom. And it just means the world to me because pain led me to my purpose and my faith has sustained me. And honestly, it's not money that's going to give you freedom. Is money great? Absolutely. It's fantastic. But it's truly having the faith and knowing you're walking in your purpose and trusting Him that gives you freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's just been really huge for me. But when I started my podcast, I did not know. I had no idea what I was doing. It was just one day at a time. And it's been the same way even with coaching. It's just been one day at a time and building my website. And, I look back and I think, oh my goodness, look where I was just a few months ago when I began all of this. I mean, I'd been coaching for the past year, but I wasn't really delved into it.
Mhm.
And then once I got certified and I really just started, God just leads everybody to me. I don't have to go search. And so I think it's huge just to know that when you're walking with the Lord, He's really going to just walk your path for you. He's already prepared it.
Well, I think we say that, he's going to do something wilder than anything we can imagine if we trust
This is
him.
true.
That's why
This
I
is
go,
true.
that's why I go, it's a roller coaster. Buckle the seatbelt. Let's go.
Right.
It's going to be good. It's going to be
I,
good.
I,
Jesus is It's like, follow me and it's going to be good. I'm like, okay.
Okay. But it's so true because I often say, like, my whole life feels like a roller coaster ride some days.
Mhm,
But when I look back at where I was 10 years ago and I look at where I am today,
mhm.
I'd take that roller coaster ride all over again. I'd have probably done a few things maybe different, but I'd take the whole roller coaster ride again. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree. It's just a blessing. Is there any advice you have for our listeners today that you would, or encouragement that you would love to lead them with?
I always love this thought of, no matter where we are, that we have to remember that when Daddy God looks at us, he smiles. He's not disappointed. He wants to come alongside of us. He wants to draw us closer for us to lean in. And he looks at our pile of stuff and he doesn't go, well, that's going to keep me from you. He puts his arm around us and he goes, that's a big pile, but we're going to deal with it together.
That's right.
And so he's willing to do that. And you know what? Every day might not be a positive step forward for us, but you know what? The sun comes up tomorrow and we can take that next best step. And, just do it over and over again. That's why God gave us the sun to remind us that it's a new day, and to shed light on, hey, there's something bigger going on, right? And so that
Right.
those are the things that I go. Those are the things that have served me well and gotten me through the years, and um, have made this ride enjoyable, even in the lows. To say, I know my daddy's God is smiling and he's got me, and I can do this. I can do
Yeah.
this through.
I definitely just want to tune into that because addiction is heavy on my heart. We moved to an area where there's a lot of people that struggle with addiction, and every morning when you wake up, you practice resurrection.
Mhm, mhm, very much so.
And so, get up and know that there's literally nothing you can do. God is going to chase you down. He's never going to stop. He's coming after you. He's not leaving you. There's nothing you can do, no choice you can make in this world that He's going to stop loving you. He's going to keep chasing you.
Yeah, that's true. I love it.
Hey guys, thank you so much for being with us today, Debbie. It's
My
been an
pleasure.
honor and a blessing. And truly, from the bottom of my heart, I love everything you're doing. And you're just making a difference in so many lives and inspiring so many people along the way. And you're definitely stronger than a lot of people I know, but you definitely have the faith that has carried you through. And
I
you
know the
should,
one to be strong in, though. It's not me, it's him. So that's
that's
what we all
right.
have to do is lean in.
And that's all we have to do because, oftentimes we just get so stuck and we don't know how loved we are. And I shouldn't say anyone's not strong. I think we all have that strength in us. Just sometimes we don't believe in ourselves and we let
Yep,
that shame and guilt just get in and beat us up and beat us down.
yep,
So definitely don't do that. Well, hey, thank you so much for being with us today.
yeah,
And everyone, listen, you all know you have a place, you have a home here at Faith, Purpose, and Freedom. No one's left out here. Everyone belongs in this community. I don't care where you've been, what you've done, what mistakes you've made. You have a place at my table. Thank you for being with us today. And until next time, stay blessed.